A very warm good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, viewers. I'm Matthias Ofiko, news editor of the Namibian Sun newspaper. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Evening Review Show. Well, since the start of the year, the education sector has been hogging the spotlight, be it for the results, for the matric results, be it for school infrastructure, the performance of the teachers. Well, and for that, in studio we have Mr. Mahongora Kavihuha, the Secretary General of the Teachers Union of Namibia. Mr. Kavihuha, good evening and welcome, sir.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here.
It's good to have you here at such an opportune time. I'm sure the year has been busy for you so far. Your sector has been under the spotlight.
Very, very much busy.
Yeah?
But we are trying to gather information and see how best can we tackle the situation.
Yeah. Well, do you think the way the year has started sets the tone for what you can expect in the education fraternity?
Yeah, of course, because the most important aspect is that what we are experiencing this year is a result of various processes and various approaches that would not yield any result. So only this year that the results were so devastating to the extent that everybody started realizing what we've been saying all along. Because many people have taken us for granted, and for now, everybody is realizing that what we have been saying is now coming up. On the issues of curriculum, on the issues of lack provisions of the infrastructures, on the issues of provisions of materials to schools, capacity of the teachers, the overcrowdedness of classrooms, all those things we have spoke about for many years, but no one could realize it. And we have observed now that at least the education sector have reached the table of a state house. That one could say that although it's too late now, but of course at least now it's enjoying the attention it's supposed to enjoy. Yeah.
Along with the health sector and the security sector, education is one of the three biggest recipients of the national budget. Where do you think all these resources are going to, for us to still be talking about lack of infrastructure and many other factors?
The most important aspect you should realize is not about money. You can have trillions of dollars, but if you don't have plan, you don't have the right instrument in place, you don't have the right and capable management, those $1 trillion will just go unaccounted. And you will not get the results for the money that you are putting in. So the most important aspects, of course, it have been enjoying close to 1/3, I mean not 1/3, but 20% of the national budget. But the fact remains that how are those resources are being put in use?
Yeah. Well, of course, your institution is a key stakeholder to the education pie. And you were saying that all these years you've been speaking, but your voice has been falling on deaf ears. How is your relationship with the authorities, the education ministry, in this regard? Do you guys consult regularly? Do you meet? Or can you just give us a brief rundown on how it works?
Of course, in terms of the consultations, they does on ad hoc basis. But when the things become tough, where they know that they cannot get through Teachers Union of Namibia, they start bypassing us. So when they want to come up with the programs that are detrimental to the teachers, you will hear only in the media that they have consulted any other stakeholders.
What are some of those programs?
Some of them is the increase of the staffing norms, which they agreed with another union the beginning of the year, where from grade 5 to grade 12, the ratio now is 1 to 40. You see, that is a pressure on the teachers. And there, in that regard, we are kept out in the darkness. Increase of the ratio, because their grade ratio in grade 0 or pre-primary is 1 to 15. They have increased to 125. All those kind of things. So when you come to aspects that are affecting the education negatively, that are putting burden on the teachers, you realize that they will bypass us, because for us, quality education and the welfare of the teachers plus the learners are a priority as an organization.
Yeah. One thing that has also come under scrutiny over the years is the performance of the teachers. Well, I don't know how they are gauged for someone to say they've been performing or not. What has been the union's take on that allegation as far as your members are concerned, which are the teachers in this case?
Of course, the performance of the teachers, some teachers, is worrisome to us. But that performance of the teachers is characterized by other external external factors. In a sense, one is a management. How are they being managed in terms of grievance? How are they being appointed? How are they being transferred? How are they being remunerated? How are they being supported, both materially and otherwise? All those kind of things, because there is a range of various interventions that are not rightly in place, so that make it difficult for you to judge or to assist or to let the teachers be held accountable. I'm sure that one of the politicians at one of the engagement we had, he said that teachers are running away to take responsibility. Of course, we've been saying that we'll take responsibility if you put this in place. Failure to do so, don't hold us accountable. And that's, we're still seeing the same thing.
Yeah. So you feel teachers should not be blamed for the mess currently going on as far as education performance is concerned?
There's nothing that the teachers should take accountable on, because what we are saying is that things are not in place. As I'm talking to you now, positions that were already known last year, teachers are called for interviews, whose position to become. Some of them, the recommendations were made to teaching service committee. They are not appointed. They are taking 6 to 8 months for that things to be confirmed by that committee.
Yeah.
So now you are blaming that this school did not perform, and therefore the teachers should be held accountable. Those that are in the classrooms, the resources, the financial resources that the government is supposed to disperse to schools are not yet now. We are now entering February, but the money that's meant for is not yet on the table. They are waiting for April. Now with what the school should function.
Yeah.
So now the schools tend to put a burden on the parents, which is very wrong, because the schools have to put pressure on the government for the government to start acting promptly, not to go on the easy way where you are going now to expose the parents that you are not paying and discouraging them and calling them names and send the kids home, which is not their responsibility at all.
Well, look, apart from changes in the curriculum and so on, what do you think has changed drastically, say the last 5 to 10 years, for us to find ourselves where we are today?
The most important thing is that the job market have changed. The directions of the economy in terms of productions have changed. So the employment nature. But the system of education from a primary to the university have not adjusted to that. And that make it difficult for Namibians to be absorbed by the labor market. That is one. So what we need to do, what is need to be done is that there should be a social dialogue where you bring the market closer so that they can inform the changes in the curriculum. But what have we done? We thought that maybe by increasing the content of a subject, then you are adding quality to education. So we are missing the point in that regard.
Were you not part of these changes? Were you not consulted? Were you not part and parcel of this brief?
Those part of parts, that's why the consultations in government works completely different. In a sense that when you are consulted, you mention that let's remove Matthias from this document. Then the whole meeting agrees Matthias will not be there. In the next round of consultation, Matthias still there. In the last document, and you raise it up again, but you remember in the last meeting we agreed Matthias should not be there. In the last document, you still find Matthias.
Yeah.
And then later on they say that you were consulted. So what we are saying is that the consultation that have been carried out is not genuine. That is one. Two, the consultations are on ad hoc basis. Why is on? I mean, what dangers is or you find in those kind of consultation is that you don't keep record of what was discussed last year. So we've been saying that we need to improve and institutionalize social dialogue so that we can keep track of what we have discussed, and even in terms of capacity, you keep those kind of those elements in place.
So when the head of state a few days ago said teachers should make alternative arrangements as far as ad hoc infrastructure is concerned, just to make sure while government is coming, you already have something in place. What did you, a student, make of that?
Of course, when I heard that statement first, what ran to my mind, with all due respect to head of state, is that I just stand and be puzzled and say that, oh, is there a bar in the corridors of the cabinet chamber? Or why is the head of state is doing so or saying so? Because what he have confirmed with that statement is that the education is out of hand. And when something is out of hand, you have to declare a state of emergency on education.
So you think so?
Yes. Because for you to go now and start backing people that are not supposed to have that responsibility to take those responsibilities, it means that you have failed your duty and your responsibility. And you have failed your duty and you want others to assist you in what's supposed to be your responsibility, core responsibility.
Yeah.
Then it means that you must come out and tell that I'm unable to do it. And therefore, state of emergency, let all of us come on board and see how we rescue the situation. Because the problem of education, we've been saying all along, it's not about what is on the paper. What is on the paper, it is being brought about by incompetent management. It lies on the management. If we get the right people on top in education, the policy that goes down will be properly revised so that they can talk to the situation of Namibia.
Yeah. So, when you say we need adequate management there on top, and if I have to combine that with what you said earlier on regarding the consultation issue, where you say you are consulted but things are then omitted at the later stage, would you then say it's a matter of a deliberate action to sabotage the system, or do those in charge genuinely just not know what to do?
I'm sure that we completely lack leadership. We lack leadership, and if you lack leadership, you always not have any direction. And that's what is happening. Because for me, those that are in leadership, heading the Ministry of Education, ought to be an academics. And the principle of being an academic is open debate, even to the opposing opinions. You understand?
Yeah.
Which they are running away from. And that's why in some instances we are being, overstepped. Because we put our position, we argue our position, and we differ.
Yeah.
And we agree on matters that we're supposed to agree. And that is what they don't want.
Yeah.
So if you get the right people in the management of the Ministry of Education who are open-minded, who are open to critics, who are open to accept other opinion and incorporate them, things will change.
Yeah. But Mr. Kavihuha, surely there must have been some of your proposals that have been adopted by the ministry. I'm sure not everything has been set aside.
Yeah, of course. Because we have been producing documents even in education, the issues of reintroductions of the vocational training in the schools. It has been our position. It has been absorbed.
But what makes you think those positions that were not absorbed were adequate enough? Maybe the ministry felt this will not work at this time.
But at that particular moment, they felt it not working.
Yeah.
But now we are seeing the repercussions of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
Before we continue, let's just go for a short break, and we'll be back to continue this. Well, to our viewers, we head for a short break, and we'll be back to continue this very robust engagement on our education sector. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back from the short break. Mr. Kavihuha, before we came back from the break, we were discussing just offset about the top 3 leadership of the ministry, how all of them have served in leadership capacities in the regions, being that Minister Anangi Pondoka, Deputy Minister Faustina Kalai, and the ED, Ms. Sanet Steenkamp. They've headed the regions at the education level. So you expect them to really understand what's going on at the grassroots. But it seems most of our problems are still at the grassroots. Where is the mismatch here? What do you think is the problem here?
I'm still just, swimming in the same pool of confusion as you are. Because for me, and I was even a person who thought at the beginning that appointing the current Minister of Education will be a solution to the problems.
Yeah. You felt she understood what's going on the ground?
That is my perception. And also looking at the results of the regions that she used to head.
Yeah.
Grade 10 results then, although we had a different opinion in terms of a comparison of the results. But again, what we have observed now, I think that we have a West Minister since independence of Ministry of Education. And I'm sure that if a president is hearing from this one, we need to do something. She can be a very good person maybe in any other capacity. She might be also be very useful because she's a dynamic person. Of course, maybe she might not be the right one at the Ministry of Education. Yeah. So I think that we need to do something on the leadership. And then we see from there, how do we move? Moving forward.
Coming back to the union, let's firstly, what percentage of the salaries do your members pay over to the union every month?
Ours, we pay only $80 per member.
$80 per member. So you've mentioned earlier on that we shouldn't hold the teachers accountable for what's going on in the sector because certain things were not put in place to ensure that they are well equipped to do their work. So I would like to know from the union side, with these contributions and of course other resources at your disposal, what are you doing from your side to ensure that your members are capacitated at least to a certain level where then government should meet them halfway?
You know, the purpose of the union is very clear. In terms of advocating and carrying out our mandate as per the concept and the reasons why a trade union exists, we are doing it perfectly. And our resources go into that. They to understand the rules, they to understand the labor aid, they to understand how to represent themselves, how to articulate and how to contribute to policy development. That is our duty. And that we are carrying out effectively and efficiently as required.
Yeah. You also mentioned earlier on that maybe our education system is not well responsive to the needs of the society. Is this perhaps not time for the union also to relook its mandate to say maybe we should incorporate other development components within our mandate to upskill or just to help our members as far as development of their work is concerned?
Look, our union have even now adopted an approach where we need to start engaging with the final years that are doing education so that we can start teaching them that when you go within the society, you must be an agent of change. You do not go into the society and be absorbed by the system and you become a passive recipient of policies. You must be active participant. So we are doing this in the schools, but we are also now going back, putting resources in the high institution through the final years in order to ensure that teachers become strong role players, not only in the classroom, but within the society. This be done.
Yeah. So in terms of the output from the tertiary level into the market, what is the union's take on that? Do you think the tertiary institutions are pushing out quality and incredible future teachers?
Of course, there is a up and down because there is no clear articulations and complementations when you take the basic education and the higher educations or what is required within the basic education system and the way the higher institutions are training. So this was also one of the areas that was identified by the last education conference in Swakopmund, that we need to start looking at how do we articulate these kind of things. And the Ministry of Higher Education is involved through the National Council on Higher Education. So those things are already on the we have observed those deficiencies, and they are being addressed. Hopefully, they will be addressed at the speed that we want, and they will be those that are not addressing those deficiencies will one day be held accountable.
Yeah. Speaking of the education conference, of course, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, there were some media reports to say that some of the resolutions, and key resolutions for that matter, of that conference are still gathering dust on the shelves at Government Office Park. Could that also be a reason why we find ourselves in this muddy waters today?
The problem that we have is that from the conferences, there are recommendations, and there are some strong structural recommendations. Now, if you look, even starting from the land conference, meetings that are dealing with the economy, when we come to the proposal that are dealing with a structural change, those recommendations are always packed. You only deal with the administrative changes and the small thingy, and you don't deal with the real issues that you need to change, and that's where the problems comes in.
Yes.
So even now we have reintroduced the pre-work in the schools, but the process of training the teachers that will take those pre-work forward is not there. The action plan on how to roll out this pre-work, and also at the secondary level to all schools in Namibia, is not there.
Yeah.
There is no action plan on how to articulate the educational programs from those that graduate from VTC into others to when they want to further their education. It's not there.
Yeah.
Can you see now? So we are only dealing with small things maybe that our mouth can take, but those they don't bring any changes because they overturned by the structural unchanged proposals that are on the table.
Yeah. So as far as those recommendations are concerned, what then would the role of stakeholders such as yourself be if you see that 7 years after the conference, Resolution A has still not been implemented? What would you say your role would be then?
What our roles is just to raise awareness. Until such a time, awareness to the extent that those that have power, they can call in those as supposed to implement those regulations or resolutions to order. But if they want the power, they are unable to act on those that are failing. What is there for us to do? Our power as trade unions once is that we demand what we demand. If what we demand is not taken on board, then we have to. The only power that we have is to withhold our labor. And you know how even it's been regulated in the Labor Act that those powers, they are gone as well.
So just as we wrap up, just towards the end, I'd like you to touch on the issue of course, you mentioned earlier on that you can have trillions, but without a plan, nothing will change in the sector. So under the current conditions, especially economic conditions, which we are all aware of, what are the low-hanging fruits as far as improving our education system is concerned?
The economic system that we have currently now, or the economic status that we have currently now, is a man-made. So that cannot be an excuse. Because our economy, there are many proposals how to change and improve the performance of our economy. So, and that we are not doing it. And that's why it have now repercussions on the other sectors, being health, being education, being whatsoever. So what we are saying is that the government must take ownership from physical to fund education from pre to tertiary institutions. And I don't want to use the word free, because the bottom line is that the state or the government is given mandate by us to look on our behalf after our resources. Now, when we are saying the government must pay school, they must pay with what? They must pay with my resources and your resources. So when you give your money to someone and that someone go and buy a bread and bring a bread to you with your money, that doesn't mean it's free. So we are misunderstanding that word. What we are saying is that government use the money that you are getting on our behalf from our resources, as we are given that mandate to pay for education. That's what we are saying. Use our money to pay for our education. It's not free. So now the concept created deliberately by the capitalist is that when the state give, it's give free. Free from what? The money you're getting from my diamond, from my fish, from my activities in agriculture, even from the salaries that you are giving to my parents.
Yeah.
What is free for what? Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we are saying is that they have to take ownership, and the most important aspect is the management.
Yeah.
Let's look at the leadership. I'm sure that if we correct that, and that is normal thing, even in the schools, people say that no, if you have the right principal at the school will perform. It's logical. If you have a right MD here, this newspaper, newspaper will flourish.
Yeah.
But if you have a wrong person, well, there will be always back and forth, blame games and what, because there's no leadership.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Kavihuha, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much.
And all the
Let's
best
keep
with
up-
your work. Yeah?
Let's keep the debate on.
Thank you. Well, to our viewers, that's it from the Evening Review team. So again, tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a pleasant night.